Hello, how's it going? I recently uploaded a video about how I build my Kali Linux Red Team VM, which I use mostly for CTFs in an attack scenario. But today I wanted to share the process I follow to build another VM that I regularly use as a bit of an all-purpose Blue Team and Windows machine. Typically I use it for stuff like post-incident investigations, malware analysis, which you might have seen me do in my Sherlocks videos. But occasionally I'll also use it for building .NET exploits and tools, and whenever basically I need to shift into a Windows environment, but still need to be sandboxed. Unfortunately, the process is a little more manual than for my Red Team box, as I haven't gotten around to automating it, but I'll walk through the process anyway and share the important steps in the description below. The machine is based on Mandiant's FlareVM, which is a Windows malware analysis distribution. I go through the process of adding a handful of extra tools just to make it a little more multi-purpose for my users. If I jump across to the GitHub page, there's information about how to install, but effectively what we need to do is get Windows 10 installed as a VM and then go through a couple of configuration items where we disable Windows updates, tamper protection and Defender, and then we can go about the process of installing FlareVM. So kicking right off, first step is to download the Windows 10 ISO file so that we can build the VM. If you follow the link from the GitHub page, you'll be taken to this page here, and you're going to want to select download now, which will give you the Windows Media Creation tool. I already have it downloaded, so I can drag it onto the screen, and basically we're just going to follow the prompts as they come up. Okay, we'll read the software license and accept. And we're going to select create installation media because we want to create an ISO file that we can build a VM from. Select next, stick with the default settings, select an ISO file, and we'll be prompted to select somewhere to download. I'll just put it in my downloads directory. And now that's finished, we've got the Windows ISO file. Okay, so now I've got the ISO downloaded, I can build the VM. Just do a typical installation and select the ISO, and I'll do some customizations in a little bit. I usually like a single file just for ease of migration, and I'd usually give it at least 100 gig. Okay, I'll customize the hardware at this point. I find it works best with at least 8 gig of RAM. I like a little bit more processing power, and I also select the virtualize. This allows things like WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, to run, which is virtualization within virtualization basically. And I think that's about all I need to customize at this point. I forgot to change one thing, so if I shut down, go back to edit the machine, go to advanced, change it to BIOS, and it should boot this time. There we go. Okay, and we're finally installed. I'll just click to install the VMware tools, which should hopefully help with the screen resolution. Alright, and as we can see, it's now sorted out the monitor, and I can put it into full screen. So in order to disable all of the Windows things we need to, group policy, edits, alright, so the first thing we're going to disable is Windows updates, automatic updates. So we'll go to administrative templates, Windows components, and Windows update. And then we select configure automatic updates, and we will disable that. Next, we want to permanently disable real-time protection and tamper protection and Windows Defender. So we'll go to tamper protection first, which is in the Windows security settings. Go to virus and threat protection, manage settings, and tamper protection is already off. Okay, and then we can go back into policy editor, Microsoft Defender, antivirus, and real-time protection. We can select the turn off, enable turn off, and disable behavior monitoring. And then we can also enable this setting to turn off Defender antivirus. And with those settings done, we're just going to need to do a quick restart. So for the next steps, we will continue following the guidance on Mandiant's GitHub. And the next thing to do is to download the PowerShell script installer. So to do that, we need to open up a PowerShell as administrator, and we'll just copy the download command, make sure it's unblocked, enable script execution, and finally run the installer. Just a note to say that best practice would suggest that before you make the changes to the standard Windows VM by installing FlareVM, you should probably take a snapshot so that you've got a clean image to revert back to. If you ever need to blow away, rebuild, that can be a solution. I typically don't bother, but you may choose to. So now we've got the baseline VM installed. There's a handful of additional tools I want to install just to make it a little more multi-purpose for my uses. I'm going to install Chainsaw and Sigma. Chainsaw is a log parsing tool. Zimmerman Toolset, which is a collection of small tools used for forensic analysis. AutoPsy, again, it's a forensic analysis tool, but usually when you've got a full disk image, we're going to want to install WSL, and then Volatility 2 and Volatility 3. The reason why I still install both is because Volatility 2 has a lot more plugins developed for it, and then just a handful of additional other Linux binaries that are quality of life things or that come up regularly, like SQL, JQ, etc. So let's get started with Chainsaw and Sigma. And now we can jump in to find Chainsaw, and I'll just go straight to the GitHub. So as I mentioned, you can do some reading about Chainsaw, but it's a first response tool for parsing through logs, hence the name Chainsaw. and it makes use of Sigma detection rules, and it's pretty multi-purpose. You can go through MFT files as well, registry hives, etc. So we'll just grab the latest release directly out of the releases section. And extract. Okay, so we now have a folder with the chainsaw tool in it. I'll just put it on the desktop for the time being. Now it's come with Sigma rules pre-compiled within it. If you would like to stay more up to date with Sigma rules, it's a good idea to get that separately, but we can say chainsaw is now installed. The next thing is Zimmerman Toolset. So Eric Zimmerman Tools, it's a compilation of a whole bunch of very useful tools and binaries which can be used for rapid forensic analysis. So we'll follow the link to the GitHub, and it provides us with a PowerShell script that we can run to install the tools. I'm just going to move this to the tools on my desktop, and we'll run let it run, and it defaults to .NET 6. Alright, and now that's completed, we can see we've got this net6 file, and we've got all of the Eric Zimmerman Toolset. So we'll mark that one as finished and move on to AutoPsy. And we can just download the 64-bit installer. Okay, and we'll launch the installer. So AutoPsy. Okay, so that's done. And we can move on to installing Windows Subsystem for Linux. So if you haven't already, you need to make sure that in the VM settings you have enabled virtualization for the processor. And once that's enabled, you shouldn't have too many issues. So I'll just grab an admin terminal. Okay, once that install is completed, we just need to do a reboot. And we're now running Windows Subsystem for Linux. So I'll clear the screen, and there's a handful of tools I want to install. I'll start with the Volatility tools. I follow the process outlined by SeanTheGeek.net, which I'll link below. So first thing I'll need to do is a apt update, and then I'll do a full upgrade. And we'll give that another go. Then we'll install pip for Python 2. And finally, make sure we've got the final dependencies for Python 2. We'll set up a symlink for, install it first, then we'll set up a symlink. And finally, install Volatility 2. Okay, we now have Volatility 261. So moving on to Python 3 and Volatility 3, we'll start by making sure we've got pip for Python 3. Install the dependencies. And finally, install Volatility 3. And to make sure that we can easily call the binaries, we just want to make an update to our path to include the .local/bin, and that'll allow us to call vol.py for volatility 2 or just vol for volatility 3. Oops, that's not going to work. I'll put it in here, and we are home jcpr.local, add it to the start of the path and put that into bash rc, and then let's check. Accidentally added something incorrect, so I'll just do a quick clean that up, and then it's just some final Linux tools that make life easier. So I'll do a sudo apt install for JQ, SQLite 3, GDB, ltrace, strace, pipx, we've already got that, and basically anything else that you might need on a daily basis. And that'll just about do it. So this is the machine that you'll see me use on the Hack the Box Sherlocks machines, and I use for pretty much all of my blue team sort of post-incident response or malware investigation and analysis. Hopefully that was useful. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and you can put them in the comment section below. Otherwise, look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.